We often take sides on the major issues of politics and society, with a goal in moving policies and events in what we think is the best direction for the country. Informative. Innovative. Intriguing. I-95.5 FM, the most influential name in radio.
Join us this Sunday, 6th April, for episode 14 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
Once upon a time, a man was the sole provider and protector, while a woman's role was the primary caregiver to the family. Now, women have changed that narrative, and while still being caretakers of the home, are breadwinners, professionals, entrepreneurs, even world leaders. Is this the reason some men feel emasculated and can only assert themselves by being verbally, physically, or even sexually abusive to their partners and or children? This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha are joined by Ocho, a man who has been a long-time advocate for a change in the definition of manhood and masculinity. Listen live from 12:30 p.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. The Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security, brings you Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives. The 2025 Ministry of Sports and Community Development 7-a-Side Tournament, powered by the Bigger 96, Red 96.7 FM, is coming soon. All teams, get ready. Season 3 promises to be bigger and better. Gear up. The 2025 7-a-Side Tournament is back. The countdown has started to the grand 3-car raffle, presented by Presentation College San Fernando. 3-car raffle. Tickets are only $100, and with each chance, you get a shot at cruising in luxury. Drawing Easter Monday, April 21st. The draw takes place at the school. 3 brand new MG motorcars, courtesy Massey Motors, up for grabs. Get your tickets now at islandetickets.com. Card ticket outlets include teachers, pupils, parents, alumni members. Also, JTA Supermarkets nationwide, Christina Shoes nationwide, Bellini Drugs, Ateliers by the Park, 519C3 Mall, Sion's Royal Road, Ramsing Sports Cuba and Chaguanas, Sona Jewelers, Chaguanas and Pinal, all Extra Foods, all Cost Cutter Supermarkets, all Police Credit Union branches, In Accessorima and Port of Spain, Disco Mart Tunapuna, Jumbo Foods Barataria, all Kenny Sports Stores, Crosby St. James, Simon's Musical, Board Street, Cinnamon Drugs, San Grande, Wack Radio, Mart's Liquor Palace, Eagle Mountain Main Road.
Deadline for ticket purchase is Wednesday, 16th April. For more info, call 752-9758 or 652-2311.
All funds in aid of school upgrade. Presentation College San Fernando's brand new 3-car raffle.
Come closer, let me give you some love.
This is more than jazz. This is Vibrations, the experience. On Saturday, May 3rd, from 5 to 11 p.m., we head to Sound Forge for culture, love, and artistry. Come and experience love and vibrations with Vaunted Big Four,
Set my soul on fire.
Freetown Collective, jam to the beats of Charlotte Bailey, Joshua Regrello, and Kute, and sing along with Jaron Nuss and many more artists. Early bird tickets $300 are now available at Cache, In Excess, 519 Restaurant and Prindellas, or online at islandetickets.com or call 771-2470 for more info. Come and feel the energy. Vibrations, the experience. Saturday, May 3rd, Sound Forge. See you there.
Blessings on my nation.
Join us this Sunday, 6th April, for episode 14 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
Once upon a time, a man was the sole provider and protector, while a woman's role was the primary caregiver to the family. Now, women have changed that narrative, and while still being caretakers of the home, are breadwinners, professionals, entrepreneurs, even world leaders. Is this the reason some men feel emasculated and can only assert themselves by being verbally, physically, or even sexually abusive to their partners and or children? This Sunday on on Dependency, Garth and Natasha are joined by Ocho, a man who has been a long-time advocate for a change in the definition of manhood and masculinity. Listen live from 12:30 p.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. The Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security, brings you on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
That's right. Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Independency, right here at I-95.5 FM, live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel at this time until April 28th. We'll be here at this time, 12:30 to 2, until after the election, we go back to normal time. Good afternoon, Natasha.
Good afternoon, Garth, and good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to our Independency at our temporary new time. I would like to welcome as well our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. Please remember to like the live when you enter. It really does help the channel and the page. And of course, we are set to have a very important discussion this morning, Garth.
Yes, and also Tamika is here with us. She's making the shift with us too until we go back to normal. So good afternoon to her as well. Good afternoon, Tamika. And thank you very much for being here with us. We, of course, thank the previous program with Sir Roger Lee, and of course, you heard the broadcast this morning from the People's National Movement. Now it's our turn to educate you. And we've never had this discussion in this way before, dealing with the perceived emasculation and insecurities of our men. And let me put this out there.
And boys.
And boys. And we have a very familiar voice on 95.5 FM. For years you've heard him, Mr. Oscar Ocho, a good friend of ours, very, very beautiful gentleman. I must say, every interaction with him have been very pleasant. He sends me WhatsApp messages that I can't keep up with. Sometimes I would share some of it.
Dr. Oscar Ocho. We just found that out this morning.
No, yes.
That's fine.
That's the humility of the guy. But Oscar, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, guys. Natasha, to my wife who's listening, of course.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
And to the national and international community.
Yes, welcome to our program, and thank you very much. And we're so happy to know that you can share some of your thesis with us this morning, because we are at a juncture right now. I had to do a lot about finding out about myself as a man and my purpose and the way I left home, what I saw with my mother and my father. There are a thing called generational cases. Right. The thing that I saw, I almost went on that road too as an abusive young man, because the two ways that these sorts of problems were solved in my home was I getting beaten like a slave, or my mother and father fighting, constantly. I saw that. I grew up seeing that. I will never forget the picture of my sister and her in one of our spare rooms, huddling together and crying, and I witnessed all of that. So I felt that as a young man too, growing up, that was the way to deal with things, right? And fast forward to joining the military and continuing with that womanizing, and it was a whole trip until I reached that stage of maturity, I would say, not too long ago. Right? No, I'm serious. And Natasha actually helped me to reach there.
Oh, lovely.
You follow? But I'm seeing a lot of things happening in our country with our men not looking out for each other, men fighting and trying to kill each other. I want to give a shout out to that teacher. I don't know if you saw that video.
Oh God, that was so challenging to look at.
Yes.
you know.
We saw two males in roles there. He trying to protect the young lady, but then another male school student trying to go at the young lady and him.
Yeah, it's amazing, and what to me was even more frightening is that we are seeing this happening with our girls. We have concentrated on our boys and violence, but it's a totally different kind of dynamic we are treating with now.
Yes. So we want to find out how this happens, and I'm sure Natasha has her first question waiting. So Natasha, over to you.
Well, I would like us to start from looking at it from a broader picture in terms of how our society is organized, what are these social systems that we adhere to for the sake of order, and how that impacts on how we raise boys, how we raise girls, how men and women are treated, how we treat each other in society. What is the overarching system or ideology you think that has created the situation or the environment that we're in today?
Good. Well, thank you so much for that question, and it really is a delight to be here. But I want to start from a theological, spiritual, to bring it to social, because I think that nuanced in that are some of the issues that we have to treat with that may be contributing to some of the social issues and challenges that we have to contend with. Now, as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, but also as a professional. So I'm marrying my theological with my professional here. We subscribe to the fact that in the beginning, mankind, both males and females, were created by God. And as a consequence, when Eve was brought to Adam, there was an intimate connection because his bone was used, his rib rather, was used to create Eve. And he said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. So man and woman were initially created with a sense of equality, understanding that there was no superiority or inferiority. Sin, however, when you look at the Bible, changed the dynamic, and I know we may have a lot of discussions about this, Natasha. Sin changed the dynamic, which is part of the issue that we have to treat with, where man was seen now as the leader. And if you look at the book of Genesis chapter 3, it speaks about the woman, you know, her desire will be to her husband. But yet in the New Testament, when you look at Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 21, the Bible speaks about both husband and wife submitting themselves to Christ. And therefore the injunction is that men are to love their wives, but women are to submit to their husbands, which to my mind is creating part of this social dynamic. And I see Natasha is cringing, but I'm starting there because except we understand.
You see the word submit?
Yes. But you see, submission is not a call to be subservient, but submission is understanding our roles. And you see, it is a natural response to love. So if a person does not feel loved, it becomes difficult to respond to an emotional or social environment, which creates now the level of social conflict. So a lot of men are still with the moving along and living with the consciousness that I am boss, I am in charge, I am in control, and not realizing that fear does not conjure love, that oppression will not cause a response to love, that making people feel subservient is going to cause untenable friction friction and conflict in relationships. So, except now we help men to recognize and understand what is the basis of relationships and how do we maintain that level of communication, that level of respect, that level of ensuring that we work together, we will find ourselves having to deal with these conflicts which may be creating the level of tension as it relates to the social order, as you would have asked. Natasha.
No, let's Natasha, could I ask?
No. Go ahead, because where I want to go, I don't feel we'll end this program at 2:30. But no, go ahead.
No, I just want to the word. Let's go back to the word submit. Now, it's a very powerful, a very strong word. Yes. Slaves submitted to their masters. Now, I know you heard that program where we spoke to someone who felt that if he wants to force himself on his wife, i.e., rape his wife, he should not be charged for it. Thank God we live in a country that our lawmakers see otherwise. But he insists. I mean, and I'm talking about even someone who was close to me. I had to end up blocking him too because he agreed with the gentleman that why should a wife report a husband for forcing himself on her when I got married to you? Remember, why?
God,
Where did that thinking come from?
Well, you see, that thinking is also supported by the socio-cultural milieu. Because people continue to subscribe to the whole concept of men being in control.
Yeah.
And not understanding that with leadership, with understanding where you are positioned, come a sense of responsibility. So therefore, when we understand the dynamics of relationships, and understanding it's two adults, it's not a parent and child. It's not somebody who is superior and another who is inferior, who is entering this relationship. If we don't get that clear, and in helping men to recognize that you are not called to be the controller, but you have core functions to protect, to provide, to nurture. But we allow the constructs of nurturing and caring to be female-dominated or female-oriented. So therefore, men hold on to the controlling aspect of it, and that continues to provide the framework for this level of dysfunctionality, for want of a better word.
And also, I just wanted to interject here. I think a lot of that need for control is born from the very religion that the very book, the good book, and it is perpetuated by those notions of that are written in the book that say that the man is the leader, the head of the household. He is the provider and the protector, and the woman has to just follow. A lot of the beliefs that men have are driven by that fundamental religious tenet.
Because the guy quoted the Bible.
Yes, of
he
course.
actually
And
quoted
people
the Bible.
use the Bible. Men have in history used the Bible not just to enslave people and all of that, but also to subjugate women.
Yeah, and that's why I deliberately started there. But I also wanted to juxtapose what the New Testament said. Because the New Testament calls for men as well as women to submit, out of respect for God. But because we function in a social environment of somebody has to be the boss,
In charge, yes.
right? Because let's face it, we still operate with a kind of enslavement mentality where you look at it in the workplace, you look at it in the home. I mean, the child will do something And the father is the one who is expected to be the disciplinarian. So the children are developing a social construct as the father, that's the boss, that's the big bad wolf, that's the one who we have to make sure we fall in line. But with the mother, we could shift the goalposts, and she would talk, and she would talk, and she would talk, and she gets frustrated. And I'll tell your father, and the children then, they bow into submission. Yes. So we, even within the context of our families, how we are socializing our children to understand order and to understand that relationships are not sustained based on control. I could get somebody to subscribe to adopting behaviors that are consistent with my expectations when I am around. But that doesn't mean that it's incorporated into their values.
Correct.
And that's part of the challenge we're facing.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and you're hearing the voice of Dr. Oscar Ocho. And we are talking about, the reason why we want to have this discussion today, because of, just look at the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago and the world by extension.
World, yes.
You know, this, and I could use the word here, patriarchy.
Yes.
The people who, most of the people who run in gangs in our country and encouraging people to commit crime are men.
That's right.
It's whether we like it or not, the people who, apart from one or two women who are involved, but the majority are men, giving children drugs to use, giving children drugs to sell. So what is that? That is what we talk about, the emasculating of the man, and you use another term to describe insecurity.
Yeah.
How do we define both of them?
All right. So this brings me to a very, very important point, Garth. Because a man who is insecure within himself is a person who, one, does not truly know himself, is not comfortable in his skin, and doesn't understand his purpose. And I'm using the word purpose, right? Not just his role, but his purpose. And so an insecure man is someone who is hypersensitive, who believes that the world owes him honor, who owes him respect. In fact, an insecure man wants to be a king without a throne. And it doesn't matter what he does, because of the very nature of who he is, a man, then he has an expectation that he should be treated a particular way. And if that response to him is inconsistent with what he perceives to be the response that is expected, his reaction and response would be to weigh you down, would be to belittle you.
And if you wear a uniform?
Well, remember, uniform
yes.
in and of itself provides you with a sort of legitimacy.
Yes, an authority, yes.
Yes, right? I mean, the biggest, baddest man in town, seeing a policeman in uniform, will cowl to that person, because suddenly the uniform represents power, control, and authority, and not realizing that if you are living within the law, a uniform doesn't affect you.
Now, what about the person who wears the uniform and have that mindset as well? Because we have a lot of those.
Absolutely.
And you see, part of the challenge that we face as a society is that maybe we spend so much time focusing on the physical attributes of the person wearing the uniform, and not understanding that there are some social and emotional attributes that are critical. Because if I am in a position of authority, if I don't understand how to manage that authority, I can go so far right, which is left, and now become a person who is contributing to the dysfunctionality, but validating it because of my uniform. And that is something that we have to look at very seriously. A uniform might give me power, but I have to learn how to control that power. My emotional intelligence as a man is important. You could see an insecure man in uniform. It's one of the most illiterate and ignorant persons that you'll have to deal with, because everything that they do is right.
And a uniform could also mean a suit and tie, right?
Yeah.
Because that is a uniform of another
Yes,
another realm.
another white collar kind of.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
but this is very important, because from time to time, the Ministry of National Security has to either make a statement, or the head of a unit always have to come out and make a statement defending what happened with people that they recruit. Now, I always say to people that you cannot vet a person's character. You
No.
can't vet their conscience. They will tick every box that says yes.
Yeah, you can vet reputation, you can't vet character.
Right. But from the time they put on the uniform, because are you a people person? Yes. Can you work under stress? Yes. Yes. But from the time they change into that uniform, all of a sudden now, you know who I is?
Yes.
And you can't stoop, you can't raise your voice, you cannot question. That is part of the issue.
Garth, I will share a personal experience to you and Natasha and the listening public. I remember I was working in HIV at the time, and we had gone, I wouldn't call where we would have gone, but we had gone to one of the military bases. I wouldn't say whether it's Trinidad or Tobago. And there was, because we were working in HIV at the time, and we wanted to do some work with the military, in HIV. And there was this young man from the military. He clearly was working there. He was not in uniform. He asked us, what we were doing, who we came to see, and he was so gracious to us. And we were so impressed. He said, well, let me go and let the person know that you all are here. So we sat down in the waiting room, and after a while, the person in charge, whom we had gone to meet, came out. And the way that senior officer belittled and humiliated that young man, we were in shock.
In front of you.
In front of us.
Yeah.
Because I understand in the military, you comply, you obey, so you don't have a brain, you cannot think, you cannot reason, you have to operate by rote. Yes. So because you now have to operate by rote, here is a big man, 6 foot something, being emasculated, and I'm using the word emasculated, in front of 2 civilian strangers. And he has to now return to his base. What is happening to him, his emotions, his thinkings. And we were so traumatized by that experience that when the senior told us, well, give him a minute, he's coming back, we immediately left. Because we couldn't, we would have been out of place to challenge his authority.
No, I was outside when you started this, explaining this. Is it the military?
It's the military.
Right. Well, and how long ago was this?
That was, I would have worked there from 2005 to 2007, so that's about 2006.
2006. Well, we talking about then and now military, right? And I mean, back in.
Yeah, well, you're going to defend them, right?
No, I'm not defending, but you see, the military personnel supposed to be trained for this. And
so he would have been accustomed to being berated like that
because
in front of others.
I remember Sam Major. Babel, you tell us there's no such thing as embarrassment in the military.
No, tell me.
So
Tell
if
me
we
this
if
Tell me.
yeah no so if we go in town, right? Let's say we in town and we have a parade or something, and the sergeant have to give instructions, or the RSM has to give instructions, and he has to use some choice language to do so. That's not supposed to affect the military personnel.
But
so maybe that person probably wasn't affected by that. You all were affected
No,
more than him.
but God, this speaks to the conflict that we have to deal with.
Right.
So this man who is in charge of his home, he has to leave a base where he is made to feel like a child. Where he is made to feel as though you are not of the status to control things here. When he goes to his home and he has to deal with children who may require discipline, can he now assume the role of a man who has his emotions in check and who can now reason with that child? And make it worse yet, if he is in an environment where his wife is choleric and he might be phlegmatic. Huh?
Yes, very well explained. I just wanted to pause here. I want us to play that explanatory video, which explains what the patriarchy means. Because the military is one of the institutions that we have that is wholly patriarchal.
Yeah.
And those values transcend to all of the major institutions we have in this country and can be damaging to men. The
Is
very men
damaging.
is damaging to men. The very men who created it is harmful to those men.
And God
ways
is explaining it to me.
Yes, of course, because he live in it. He's died in the world. You know, he's a part of it. He believes
He's
in it.
out of it, but he's in it.
He's still in
It
it.
is not. It has not.
100%.
It has not been able to get out of him.
No.
And I understand because this sounds like classical conditioning.
It is. But it is brainwashing. It is.
It is God.
No, but you see, this is why we have a separation between military and paramilitary.
Yes.
Again,
But the paramilitary is the same way, you know.
No,
It's
okay.
the same structure.
Right.
It's the same hierarchy, the same order and discipline, which is a function of the patriarchy.
let me use this as an example. Another example.
Yes.
During training, we were cussed for tea, breakfast, and dinner. Every minute.
Yes.
So there was a time we had a little downtime and we asked our major, why did they be cussing so? You know, I mean, somebody fit a cuss word between unbelievable. I couldn't believe that could have fit between that word. No. Sam major said, okay, when you go in town, or let's say you're around civilians, and a man call you toy soldier, or start to cuss you and laugh at you, that will just run off of your back because you're accustomed hearing it in here. So it was a way to prepare the military personnel to deal with what they will get when they reach outside. And it
couldn't-
worked for us.
God, it couldn't prepare you to deal with what was happening on the outside. It prepared you to be obedient to rules and instructions. Because you knew, had you challenged that authority, you would be in a lockup somewhere.
For the high jump.
You understand? You cannot get to visit that wife who is waiting for some sex from you because you are away for 2-3 weeks. And you are in all kinds of turmoil, and you say, you see me? I want to go home because I know what is waiting there for me. And when he goes out there, that's why it's easy for him now
To ignore a man telling me, hey, you're a toy soldier, boy, you
cross back a
stupid boy.
man.
Exactly. Or when the wife says something about
It's
him.
to box him out because
Correct.
because you can't do that. So there is the projection.
So this is the reason why some servicemen are notorious for being
Yes.
abusive to their family.
That's the point.
Exactly. So.
Because there is repressed anger, God.
Yes.
I have to repress this. Because I mean,
And it has to go somewhere because you're at work and you're being indoctrinated in this philosophy,
Definitely.
you're taking orders, but when you leave that environment and you're dealing with civilians, you have no way to manage those encounters, those
Definitely.
situations.
And make it worse, Garth. Now you have to understand when we look at the social construct of masculinity. And even coming out of my doctoral work, let's look at it from a biological and then a sociological. So I would have had one person who we would call a homosexual. And he would say, look, when I open my sepulcher, when I look, I see a penis, I see 2 testes, I'm a man. But he doesn't want a relationship with a woman.
Right.
Whereas on the other hand, I was doing a focus group discussion at the seaside with some fishermen. And one fisherman, a philosophical statement, he said, not everything that has balls is a man, because a ball bearing has many balls. So when you listen to these two dichotomous points of view, this man, he has to deal with his friends, and we as men will say, what kind of man you gonna make, boy? So you have to decide, am I a soft man? Am I a tough man? Am I a mama pool man? Am I a makome man? So Garth, so I come now from this military where I'm being classically conditioned to go out and face a world where if a man say, yeah, makome man, and I know that I have no inclination, no desire, nothing for a man. When that person so define you based on the image that you are projecting as a man, such a man can feel so emasculated because it's a deliberate attempt to question your manhood. Could the military prepare you, really, to deal with those nuances and those messages when you know what that social construct means? So therefore, to prove my manhood, I have to behave as my seniors behave. So I have to demonstrate that I could be in charge, and if it means damaging you so that I could feel powerful, that is what is required of me from a sociological perspective, guys. And we have to start calling it as it is, because it's wrong.
Can we go to the video?
Oh, he's so pensive.
We'll give you a little reprieve. Let's just go to video A, short man, which is just a short description of what the patriarchy is. I think it will kind of concretize the term for those people who may not be familiar with it or don't quite understand what it means. This is just an explainer.
Good afternoon to Rosemary from Brooklyn, New York. Listen to us. Thank you very much. Also, Rosemary from Canada. Thank you for listening to us as well. Short man, let's go to the video.
Video A, please.
Patriarchy is a word that scholars, and in particular feminist scholars, use to describe the ways that the world is organized by ideas about gender, and in particular ideas about men and women. Patriarchy says that men should be in charge and women should follow along and do what men want to do. And so there are lots of ways that patriarchy shapes our lives. I think one of the most clear examples of patriarchy is kind of the idea of the family or the idea of the marriage. And so inside the word patriarchy is the Latin root pater, which means father. And in a patriarchal family, the father is at the top of the family structure. So the father's in charge, maybe the mother's up there, but she's kind of following along, and then the kids are down below. And so that kind of structure might get replicated in lots and lots of other institutions. So if the little family, if the single unit of the family is patriarchal with the dad on top and the mom underneath kind of following along, then a patriarchal institution that's not the family would look the same way. So a patriarchal government structure would say the men should lead and the women should follow along. In the late 18th century, when the United States was founded, we had a patriarchal government structure because women couldn't vote. So the men could lead, the men could tell the women what to do, and the women had no voice. They couldn't vote. They had no choice really but to follow along. Other structures like that might be like businesses or work environments in which the men are the bosses and the women are fulfilling other kinds of duties that are also important but are not valued as highly. So we sometimes see patriarchy through the structure itself, and sometimes we see patriarchy through the kinds of practices that happen in the place. So you might see a situation in which it seems from the outside like the men and the women all have the similar kinds of jobs and similar amounts of power in the space. But if the men actually get to do whatever they want, and the women kind of have to tolerate bad behavior or tolerate being called names or things like that, then even though it looks from the outside like everything's hunky-dory, actually it's a patriarchal structure because the men still have more power than the women.
Does that make sense to you guys? That the society that we live in, forget the rest of the world. Trinidad and Tobago operates under a patriarchal structure. The structure of our government, the structure of our judiciary, the structure of our families mostly, and we'll get to that because a lot of men are upset about the fact that we have single mothers heading households, but that's another story. The structure of our institutions like the military, the police, the structure of a lot of businesses and companies, even though you may have an odd woman CEO here or there, it doesn't dispute the fact that men are generally thought to be leaders and are placed in positions of leadership because of their gender.
Mm-hmm. So
that is the society we live in.
So can our guest answer that first and then Oscar? Yes, that's why we have Oscar here.
Well, patriarchy, the structure of society on a whole, is patriarchal in nature because it is believed that it helps with the functionality.
And the order.
Right, and yes, to provide the order. Mm-hmm. However, it's important to note that while that may be so, we in Trinidad and Tobago, and I think the Caribbean, I can't say the wider world, in spite of the fact that society may be structured with patriarchy, it doesn't prevent women from having access to senior positions. We have had a female prime minister. We have had female presidents. We do have and have had CEOs. So even
we also have female leading in the military too as
that's
well.
Right.
We have,
that's
we
right.
have that now. So the narrative have changed somewhat.
Right. So, but it would be interesting to recognize that although in some instances, for example, we would have had females leading, let's take, for example, the military, when you listen to the dialogue, there are questions surrounding what is the level of competence, even though you may find that some of the men who may project themselves as being successful may not have been successful as the female head, but I guess that gender discourse sometimes prevents us from having the balance that we're looking for. But I want to extend this dialogue beyond patriarchy now to the whole issue of hegemony. Because and it's interesting that the person and I'm saying the person who started the whole dialogue about masculinity as a social construct, it would be interesting to read about, is now Raywin Connell, R. Connell, an Australian sociologist. In that seminal piece of work called Masculinities, spoke about the fact that even the construct of masculinity has a hierarchy.
Yes, of course.
So those who, like the military, the powerful, the strong, those who subscribe to the machismo image, the fact that you have multiple sexual partners, but you can't deal with a female who will have multiple sexual partners, because part of the hegemonic is that you have to be in control, you are the provider, you are the breadwinner, and he puts hegemonic masculinity, which subscribes to what is considered the ideal masculinity, to the top. And then he spoke about the subordinated masculinities. And even with the subordinated, you have those that are subordinated based on their socioeconomic status. And we see it. So a man who cannot bring sufficient economic wealth to the table, who may be in a relationship with a female who now drives a car, has a house. So if you want to go out, you go out together, but you have to stay in the car, make sure I reach home, and then you travel to get back home. He now is feeling as though because he cannot bring a certain socioeconomic currency to the table, he is considered less than the ideal man. And then under that, you also have now the man who sees himself as trapped in this body. So he wants a relationship with another man. So he now has to fight to now understand who he is, because the social construct of what it means to be a man is different to what he subscribes to. The interesting thing,
a heterosexual
yes,
in that
yes,
context.
within that. But the interesting thing is R. Connell was born biologically male, but is now legally female.
Mm-hmm.
Yet my study for my doctoral thesis, we realized within our context, masculinity is policed. You have to subscribe to this social construct of what it means to be a man. And the conflict we are facing here is that the men themselves are so conflicted that they spoke about there's a difference with being a real man and an ideal man. So a real man is somebody now who has plenty of women. Yes, he provides, and he does not take responsibility.
Thank you.
But an ideal man
uses violence
that's right,
to get what he wants.
An ideal man, on the other hand, is somebody who is responsible. He is monogamous. He has only one woman. He knows how to say, I'm sorry. But the men said, it's hard to be an ideal man.
Too hard.
It's hard because where are the models? Where are those male role models who exemplify what it is to be a man? So in spite of the fact that we have this wonderful definition and explanation of patriarchy, we operate in a society where many of our children, not only young men, but young ladies as well, are operating in homes with an absent father.
Yes.
But many uncles who have no biological relationship to their mother, because every so often is a new uncle. So how does a young man understand how to treat a woman?
How to think of himself as
that's
a male.
right. In the absence of a male figure. And then that young man goes to school where the principal, and even as I listened to the service commission chairperson the other day teaching service, in a boys' school you have a female principal. So you have a plethora of females who are socializing you as a male. And then you go to church. The females are pastors, they are elders, they are leaders. They're more articulate. And they are present in your lives. So what is really happening with this social engineering, and I'm using that word advisedly, of our young men to understand that you are being pressured from so many sides, and you still have to understand, who am I? Am I a man? Am I a real man? Do I want to be an ideal man? And who will be there to validate me if I can't validate myself?
But do you think, Oscar, that shift has the potential to create more ideal men, because they are being fashioned outside of that box of masculinity?
Yes.
You're getting another perspective on how a man is supposed to behave from a woman, because you're getting the nurturing side, the caring side, the empathy, all of the things that you associate with femininity and womanhood. Boys have access to that.
But the reality is having access to something, but incorporating that is a totally different argument.
In a society that says you need to be this.
Definitely. Yeah. Because what was very clear to me is that females could teach you how not to be a woman, but they can't teach you how to be a man. Because you need that male figure to help you and the literature is clear, you know. Young men, even young ladies, they need male figures to socialize them.
Absolutely.
And when I heard, for example, when I did a focus group with some young men from the Beetham, and I'll never forget, this young man said, well, you know, I don't know what it is to have a role model. I think my role model is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, the guy never met him. He must have seen him on the television, heard him. But he is held up as a role model. And then he went on to say, but for me, I take a little bit from this one, I take a little bit from that one, I take a little bit from the other one. And I try now to develop what to me is my definition of what it means to be a man. Why should we have our young men go through such gymnastics and patchwork to try to figure out who they are?
So is it that this young man could not identify men in his immediate
there were none.
surrounding?
There were none.
That he could point to and say, I want to, you know?
No, there was
like
none.
You. And that is the large question that we ask. Now, where are they? Where are the men?
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking in studio here with Oscar Ocho, Dr. Oscar Ocho, that is.
Yeah.
And I just want to send condolences to Pastor Google and his family, brother. Stay strong.
Yes,
we know it's a tough time for you now, right now, but stay strong. Let's go to a break. It's so much to unpack here, and then apart from it, only make me feel like I damaged now because
yes, you're damaged.
I'm not getting in that conversation.
But the thing is what you describe about me. We talk about the ideal man.
Mm-hmm.
I had to work through a lot to become that.
That's right.
And
you will still be working.
Well, listen, I remember a scenario with Natasha and I when we just started dating. I was in the kitchen cooking and she was on the computer. Mm-hmm. And came by the pot, she looked, take her taste and kiss me and go. But by the computer, I said, what's something wrong with this picture here? Then I don't ask her, wait, something wrong with this picture. I wear the apron here right now. But she's on the computer using her skill to get us to where we are today. And I didn't have a problem with it. Right? There was a time my batch they came by me, everybody in the yard, and she was going out with her friends. And I picking up clothes off the line. She come and she kiss me and say she gone and my boss and I must be and say, but you picking up clothes and your wife going out.
Because you're not a man.
It looks strange to them. But I say, there's no problem with me.
When in reality and in fact, there is no reason why a man in a household cannot cook, cannot wash, cannot clean. What is the, and this is the box that men are being put in, that you are not supposed to be doing those things because you're a man. When in fact you're a human being, you must know how to cook for yourself.
And that's part of the what is going to keep the relationship together. But I have another argument to that, Natasha.
So we could do that when I come back from the break?
Come back from the break.
Yes. So let's go to the break. I'm enjoying this conversation for many reasons.
Yes, so Mika's intently listening to.
But this is my thesis.
Okay, great. And what's nice to know, we have a lot of women in leadership roles in this country here. Some of the women operate silently. Most of the PSs in this country are women.
Are women,
And some of them is more qualified than the ministers they work with alongside.
Well, they are.
But they are the fabric that keeping Trinidad and Tobago together.
But undervalued, under-recognized, because we live in the patriarchy and what the man is in front.
But do you think they are undervalued? A PS is a... Listen.
Of course, we know the power of the PS, but if you're looking from the outside, just as you're looking at a ministry, for instance, who's the head of the ministry? The minister, who's the face?
Yeah. But because the political environment.
But isn't that by design, though?
It is.
No, when I say design, not to make the PS look like they're not important, but isn't it PSs prefer it that way? Because
no, it's not a preference.
No.
It's not a preference. A
That's how it was
PS,
designed.
while you're the accountability officer, you are not the political part of the political directorate.
Right.
So you have to make sure that in executing your functions, you have to ensure you give the best possible advice to the minister, but the minister doesn't have to take it.
Correct.
Because you have to execute policy. That's your role.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with how you feel, what you believe. I functioned as a chief nursing officer, so I understand that.
Let's go to the break. We'll be back.
Yes, girl. Online here with this weirdo named Larry. I'm getting rid of him now. Let's take a selfie. It looking good, boy. I putting it online.
Hey, I thought you say you went to the beach with your parents.
Who's you?
It's me, Larry, from online.
Hola, my name is Elena. Well, it's actually not my real name. You don't really care, do you? All you care about is once you pay your money to my boss that I look pretty, smell nice, smile for you, and let you have good time. Enjoying yourself and doing to me whatever you want to do for the money you paid. What you don't see or know is that I don't get any part of the money you paid. My boss takes all of it. I am forced to work, taking as many clients as my boss tells me to. I am beaten, made to take drugs, and I cannot leave this kind of work on my own. I am a victim of human trafficking. Please, por favor, help me.
Join us this Sunday, 6th April, for episode 14 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
Once upon a time, a man was the sole provider and protector, while a woman's role was the primary caregiver to the family. Now, women have changed that narrative, and while still being caretakers of the home, are breadwinners, professionals, entrepreneurs, even world leaders. Is this the reason some men feel emasculated and can only assert themselves by being verbally, physically, or even sexually abusive to their partners and/or children? This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha are joined by Ocho, a man who has been a long-time advocate for a change in the definition of manhood and masculinity. Listen live from 12:30 p.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. The Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security, brings you Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
Thank you for staying with us. You're listening to Dependency. I'm hoping that this conversation would help change some men, if it's not too late for that to happen. But again, we left on the fact that
the
women, yes. Yeah. Okay, like for instance, the counter-trafficking unit, that was led by women. Until recently, now the deputy director of the counter-trafficking unit is a woman, and a very respected one too, as that, you know, and she and the director work side by side. She's not behind, and the director respects her, you know, as being the deputy director of the counter-trafficking unit. So, I think it has come full circle. Or I should say, some men have matured to the point where understanding that women are equal to us. It mightn't be in strength, but in terms of
we're not trying to take anything away from you by asserting ourselves and taking up leadership roles, as Oscar was just saying. You know, we treated as adults. We're adults. We're not men, but we're adults, so we should be respected for that. If not anything else.
Yeah, but when we broke, I also wanted to give my posture on this whole concept about men assuming more of the domesticated roles, and which I have absolutely no problems with, because in my house I do the baking of the bread.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, right? Absolutely no problem. Washing, everything. Yeah. But I think what feminism has done, and we may digress a bit here, Natasha. Yeah, what feminism has done, it has liberated women.
Yes.
To the point of we are equal, but they have domesticated men without taking up some of the roles that men would have executed.
I disagree on that point.
I expected you.
Because we are the breadwinners in the home a lot of time.
Right.
And as we said in the promo, that is part of why some men are emasculated, right? So we are taking up that role. We are saying that we don't necessarily need a man to enjoy our lives. We don't need a man, and we don't need children. We are independent.
Right.
And that assertion and that posture is making men feel more insecure about their position.
And it will make men who are not secure in themselves feel insecure.
Yes.
But look at the language that this posture is aligned to. I don't need a man. I may just need you if I want to have a little exercise. Okay?
Yes.
Because I can exercise by myself, right?
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
So, and I'm using language that is palatable because we are dealing with
the public airwaves.
Yes. And what you find is that the man now assumes the posture of an appendix that could be excised without feeling as though you have lost anything. But yet that man wants a relationship, so that although I have assumed roles within the home, that doesn't make me less than a man. It's within the context of how is it going to contribute to maintaining an effective relationship. So he does not come to the relationship accepting those roles because he feels that he is less than. But he wants you to appreciate the fact that you are now complementing rather than competing each other.
Yes, yes. Good point.
And except women stop this lie and lying to themselves, and that I could do without a man, I don't need a man in my life. And you're lying to yourself, because sometimes you just want somebody to accompany you, depending on the function.
But I think that statement is often derived of bad experiences with men who have not been able to live up to those expectations as well.
Then I will differ, because income has a lot to also do with that.
That's right.
Let us be real. And I keep telling people that masculinity reflects femininity. They just don't want to hear it. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the feminist movement, women are all the things that they didn't like of men.
Yeah.
So you didn't like a man to talk down at you, you are now that. You didn't like a man to make you feel like you are less than, sweetheart, you are now that. You didn't like a man to make you feel that he is full of money, he drives nice cars, he lives in a nice house. My love, you have now become what we have been detesting for a very long time. However, because we have been given that treatment for so long, we are not seeing that we are now the exact mirror of what we were running from.
Which brings us to the whole construct of emasculation.
Yeah.
Coming into our power. I would put it like that. I hear what you're saying, but
you're correct. You're correct. But when men are in their power, how do they operate? Like, I am powerful. You are below me. I do not need you. I can provide for myself. I am going to set the tone of how this is going to work. And this is exactly what women are doing. Women are now setting the descriptions of a relationship. I don't really want it to be my man, but I expect, like, if I call it because I have a work function and I want something nice on my arm, you need to come.
Good, yeah.
So you I don't know if we
objectifying men.
Yeah.
No,
So we are really the reflection of men.
No, you know, this program started years ago with me giving an example of my life. And here it is now, you all speaking something that I am living today. Because I will say it publicly, as I try to reach out to other men of my road to emasculation, Natasha don't need me. I'm telling you.
Yes,
of
and I
course
reach
I do.
out.
Who will cook for me, God?
How
will eat?
At least
you can buy food.
No, you can buy food.
You
And
understand?
that's
No, but
a
here's the
I
thing.
want to buy food
No,
every
here's the
day.
thing.
Because
Here's
I know
the
my
thing.
husband is cook with love.
No,
You see?
right, but here's the thing. No, if I was working, as I begged men, because remember they say, and I could hear the song bites in the radio now, in the news. If something happened to me, or if I do something stupid, they'll say, but God could have called me, God have my number. There are men, and I'm sure one of them listening to this program, Natasha is my witness, who I went to for the last 6 or 7 years, to tell them, listen, I need to work. I am qualified.
Yeah.
I can fish. I'm not asking for a fish.
Correct.
I can fish. I just need to be cleared to fish. And you would not believe how many times that I had to depend on my wife to go and buy something in the grocery because I cannot get work.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel we living in the upside down. I am living in the upside down because here it is, you have a country plagued with substance abuse and drugs of all kinds. I'm qualified in that regard.
Yeah.
There is nothing again that I could put on the table that
To
says,
prove.
hey, we need to hire this guy.
And this is how,
And it's not happening.
And this is
No.
how men do not do not absorb the tenets of feminism and solidarity, because any man who can identify with what his God is going through would make sure and help him, would find a community, make a community with him and help him.
Right.
Raise him up.
But you see, part of the challenge we
and
face.
that's a valid point.
Part of the
because
challenge.
we have, as women, we always create a safe place.
Correct.
That's right, for catharsis.
Correct. Yeah.
But the reality is, men have not been socialized to seek help.
Yes.
No,
because,
but I think it's more than
and that's what
socialized.
makes it so hard.
Yes.
when
I think
you do
it's
it.
more than socialized. I think men have not even been taught how to welcome a man who is vulnerable enough to ask for help.
But, and that's part of the social milieu in which he's operating. For Garth to even... Now, I am listening to Garth. Garth is the moderator, but all I hear is pain.
You couldn't believe.
No, because I'm hearing pain from this brother who for years have been in control of the airwaves.
And I have to turn around now and help other people who reach out to me with their pain.
That's right. So you have to be strong
For others.
for others.
Yes.
But how do you even make yourself vulnerable, to use your word, to say brothers are hurting? The average man may laugh at you.
Correct.
Laugh at you and say, boy, what's something you're talking about? You keep banging the pavement, something will happen. But even to accept a blue note from that brother, you know how much it will take from you, Garth?
Yeah.
As a man,
Yeah. Yeah.
a qualified, a competent, I have what it takes to make a contribution. And you mean this is what I come to? So you understand the turmoil, the mental turmoil that this man has to go through in understanding.
And that is the story of a lot of our
men
in 2025.
So what do they do now?
Yeah.
Suicide.
But
Drugs. Or resort to drugs, violence,
yes.
all of these things.
And this is why that's why I was saying that they always say, you must talk, you must speak out, find the person to speak to.
Yeah. But who is there?
But who is there? Thank you.
Who is there?
Oscar, I could come to you and say, Oscar, this is what's going on, boy. It's affecting my love life and all. And I'm feeling emasculated. My wife's not making me feel so, but as a man, especially if you grow up hearing from your mother that you must be the provider in the home. Your wife could be working for $1 million.
Yes.
You need to provide too as well. Now, if I cannot do that, I come and I talk to Oscar. Oscar, you may help me with a fish.
But you want a fish, you want a hook.
But I can. I'm not asking for a fish. But in the meantime, to survive, if I see my wife salary finishing before the end of the month, I have to call you and say, Oscar, boy, I need some help thing. And I'm not explaining, go to the... But when you reach out to people who can help and refuse to do it, you know, which means you just tell somebody all your business and nothing comes out of it. This is why men not speaking. Because you will speak to that person who you know could help. And you wait a month, you wait 2 months, you wait 3 months, and nothing happens. And that's just somebody else know your business.
You can't rely on other men to support you.
So this is the problem.
And that's the multiple dimensions of emasculation.
That's right. Yes. So when I go back home now, and Natasha give me any lip, I'm not in control on the outside.
Yes, but you're controlling here.
Because the person who I really want to cough down,
you can't.
I can't do it.
You can't.
You understand? Yep. The person who I want to tell you, tell a few choice words to, I cannot do it. So what happens when I reach home? I have to show somehow I man in the house here. You understand?
And you see, one of the things that I think is a real challenge for us as a society, because we have socialized men to believe that they're in control, we have not taught them how to deal with rejection.
Correct. And disappointment.
Yeah.
We have
and
not.
Fears.
Yeah, we are human, you know. God cut you, cut Natasha, cut Tamika. Oh, this Tamika, yes. Right. Good. I listen to you all the time, Tamika. You've made such a significant contribution. So as a man, I'm comfortable in my skin to compliment you.
I appreciate
it. Yeah. So the challenge that we face now is that we make men feel as though to be strong
It's to be
is
silent.
not to admit
Yeah, it's to be silent.
that I have
Yeah.
vulnerabilities
Correct.
and I have challenges. And except we begin to change that, and that's why for me, like I have a 46-year-old son, he'll be 47 this week, not biological, but he's a young man. And it's, I will hug him. I will tell him how much I love him. He will say, Pops, I love you 3. He wouldn't say 2. He say 3. But how he expresses love when he rubs my shoulder, I know that he is expressing love because he's not that kind of a person who is as gregarious as I am. So he's not euphoric. But how do we create this space for our young men?
You know what is amazing here? I conducted a podcast on Sunday with 5 men from 5 different backgrounds, 5 different socioeconomic backgrounds, 5 different East Indian and these different things, right? And while my podcast was going on, my cameraman just told me to shut up. And for 7 minutes, I watched 5 men who have never been in connection with any of the other men.
Just talk.
And they are answering questions. And I'm like, it's not that men don't speak. It's not that men don't want to speak. Men just need this place for them
Safe
to speak.
space.
And for somebody to listen.
So I booked a barbershop. I invited my friend who runs the wooden counter. So when you guys feel like you want to take a drink, you can take a drink. It's there at your exposure. And I stood there for 7 minutes. The youngest guy in the room was 25. The oldest guy in the room was close to 50. And for me, it was like I didn't even need to be there. All I needed to do was be the party arranger.
Yeah.
You all need to get here at this time, at this location. I have things ready for you all. The set is yours.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I think men are hungry for environments of that kind.
Yes.
But then I always say, is society ready to give them what they need?
Or do you trust? Who do you trust to create that space for you and to give you that listening ear? You want somebody to listen, but you want them to listen with the intention to take action.
Yes.
That's right.
And not be
Not just
judgmental.
No, what I just explained here, it is the first time I talked this on radio. And it felt,
Needed.
Listen to me, people don't understand, boy. And Oscar, this is why I wanted to have this conversation today, because of the emasculation. See the word emasculating? Emasculation. Some people are so averse to understand. I don't know I don't know what it is. But every time I leave and I reach back home, thank God, Natasha always smiling. So, even sometimes we have nothing to eat. And she's smiling, and I said, what's she smiling for? I remember sitting with Natasha. I'm telling all of my business now, because the people who I talked to didn't understand. I sat with Natasha.
They didn't understand?
Or they didn't want to help, something. But listen,
I more feel is that.
we have a pan, like you come up with change and you put 2/4 in a pan, right?
Yeah.
When I see to the stage that I cannot get, I went and pull out that, and Natasha sat with me and separate 5 cents from 25 cents. And we backed them for me to go in the bank so that I could go in the grocery. You know what I'm telling you? And I saying, I just came from telling this person my whole life and put it on the table. I even let him know, listen, sometimes as a man, this could affect even you in the bedroom too. And nothing was done.
Nothing.
And I'm saying, but why did I even come back to Trinidad and Tobago? Because I understand the emasculation. I understand it. It's just that I have a partner who tries to not make me feel that way.
Yeah.
And you have to be thankful for
You're
that.
telling me I could have
Because
gone back on drugs a long time.
Although she is extremely liberated, I listen to you all
Oh
every
God, you're
week.
telling me? That is a bungalow.
Listen, and I have been a fora with her mother, so you're not telling me anything that I don't know.
And I can't be anything else.
No, and you understand, I can't talk about the father, I can speak about the mother.
Right.
But I think what is so critical is that had she not been that support system and recognizing that your economic wherewithal doesn't make you less than a man.
Yeah.
And we have to help men to recognize that being a man in a relationship is not about competition.
Correct.
To see who is bringing what, and you're measuring like a seamstress, a tailor, or a midwife. But you come to the table with an understanding of who you are, because you have to be whole before you can enter into a relationship.
No.
And if you are not whole, you couldn't deal with a strong woman like that.
Also, I think a lot of situations, a lot of people are not as fortunate as we are, in the sense that there are men who are in God's position who will take advantage of the fact that he has a supportive wife.
Yeah.
Who will force himself on her, who will take her money and not tell her how it's being spent, who will go and be philanderous outside the marriage. And I think that is what a lot of some women in these relationships are responding to when they say, look, I have had enough of this. I'm doing all that I can to support you, and you are not reciprocating. You are not, being, despite your inadequacies, you're not living up in other ways, and not supporting in other ways, and contributing to the partnership in other ways. So
and you see, in such a situation, that man is not ready for a relationship.
There you go.
Because he has not understood the importance of reciprocity within the context of a relationship. And if you cannot come to the table with an appreciation and an understanding that relationships are not based on power, because a woman could never be as strong as a man, physically, that is. But when you are able to bring your resources together and complement each other and support each other, and you don't have to feel any less than. I mean, I was the chief nursing officer in this country. My wife was a nurse educator, but she was working for more than me, although I had the big title at the ministry. Yeah, big, nice title, traveling, going to conferences, meetings. But at the end of the day, her salary package as a nurse educator, because she was now on contract, I was still a public servant. So my salary didn't compare. Did it make me less than a man? No. Because we understood that within the context of our relationship, she has always been the Minister of Finance.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency. And if you have any problem,
I want that title in my household. My wife, she's the Minister of Finance.
Oh, she is. She manages all the monies. She manages.
Thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we have Oscar Ocho in studio having a very important conversation. And Rosemary said, my father was a breadwinner, had to feed 6 kids. My mom was homemaker, and she was never treated, or he never treated her like he's in charge. Every Friday, he gave her his pay packet.
My grandfather.
And,
with my grandmother. Yeah.
And I mean, I want to say to the men out there who feel the same way right now, that it's either that partner you have who is trying to hold you up, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because, so it's nothing for me to get up while she's sleeping and mop out, polish, put clothes to wash, cook, do everything. I have no problem with that.
But Mr. God, you won't believe, right? As Miss Natasha does say, I want a man
like that.
Who is Mr. God, I don't like the kitchen. and the crazy thing is that we repeat conversations that we hear people say, and we don't want to say the truth because we want to see, we don't want to be an outcast. Mr. Gata do not like the kitchen. I like a nice kitchen. I like a clean kitchen. Yes. You see, to stand by a stove and to wait for the food to cook. By the time the food finish, I'm not hungry again. I don't see anything wrong with a man taking these roles that were designated by society, right? And I think it's about time if there's a section of us as women who will be deemed the outcasts because we are comfortable with a man who does these things, let's say it out loud.
Yes.
I don't have a Mr. Gat, I love the yard. I will take out the garbage and you could stand up in the kitchen. And I don't think I as the woman now should now be stigmatized because I'm not fitting the normal norms of a woman.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the conversation needs to go, where people need to be saying it is okay by me.
I always say I really hit the jackpot with this one because I didn't even want to get married. I mean, if people know me, I did not want to get married, right, in the first place. But he convinced me, right? But now that we're in this marriage now and you'll see my T-shirt, right? And now that we're in this marriage for going on 13 years, I can say that I am the luckiest woman in the world because there is
some cliche, but
because there is no way I would have been able to survive on my own without his guidance. For as much as he thinks that he's emasculated, his guidance, the sense of order that he puts in the household, that I have
the military prepared them
yes
for that.
yes
Yeah, I know they're about talking about military.
He got a point.
No, you have to bring him up for that. You have to bring him up for that because that is something that I could not contribute to the household, right? I couldn't contribute the culinary arts, even though, I have that in my blood too on my father's side. But I really do appreciate, let me say this publicly on national radio, I love my husband.
We see you,
appreciate everything that he brings to the relationship. It may not be monetary.
Yeah.
However,
it works. It's an abundance of everything.
Correct.
That is
And that is a good place
Now
to be.
here is what the irony is.
That's a
Here's
good
the
place
irony.
to be.
Here's the irony.
Where's the irony?
There are many times I said to myself, maybe I should have ended and let her go and live her life happy because I feel like a yoke around her.
But she never said she was unhappy.
I never told her that.
But he understands, yes.
That's right.
Correct.
Because as I told her, I say, having to go out there and meet people who not understanding and would see me suffer for years. And this is what emasculation is all about.
Yeah.
But I never took it out on her. I never took it out on, we have
the
cats.
Yeah.
And I remember, Oscar, when you share something from this, right? When you get a chance, because time it runs on us, right? So you pull something from there, and Natasha will go to the other video. But I remember going out there looking for work as usual, and one day I came home, and I always talk about this. We had a cat named Missy, who Natasha's sister described him as a merciless beggar, because he didn't care. And I came home very unhappy that day. And the first thing, who showed up by the door, as I opened the door, Missy. Missy wants snacks. I bought at Missy and Missy ran outside. Now, it's after I took my clothes off and I said, wait a minute. Look how you get on with this cat. Just switch that to a child. And a man coming home frustrated. And isn't the same way they take it out on the children and the family? I call Missy and I say, God, Missy, I'm sorry, and this has nothing to do with you. And give Missy the snacks. And I felt a little better, knowing that I could have recognized that was misdirected anger. How many men out there understand misdirected anger?
No, they do.
They do?
However, it's now I've learned this thing, right? The emotions work like this. You validate, you acknowledge it, you validate it, and then you find an avenue now to express that you as the individual have acknowledged, have validated. Now I need to find this channel, and this is what is missing in society. The channel in which the expression of the emotion needs to take place.
Jackie sent out a message WhatsApp to you?
Jackie Burgess?
Yes. Okay, so you could probably respond to that. Oscar, before you do that, Shortman, let's go to the other video. And then Oscar, go ahead. Share what you have to share, and then Shortman, line up video C for me, please.
Yeah, I wanted to share like part of the conclusion for my thesis. I'll just read this paragraph because I think it summarizes in a way a lot of what we've said. Not only was learning to be man difficult, but it also created conflicts for men in how they performed masculinity. From their accounts, masculinity was not biologically determined, but based on heteronormative performance. While researchers agree that masculinity is fluid and subject to change depending on the context in which it is performed, data from the study showed that masculinity in this context appeared to be almost fixed. Performing masculinity was based on discourses on heteronormative rigidity, however. Respondents agreed that this was utopian and generally unachievable. While there were core functions associated with being a man, including economic provider and sexually promiscuous, men in a general sense experience conflicts in satisfying these expectations. They believed that the
You know, this time ran away so fast.
Because we're not ending at
and we were in
We're
agreement.
ending at 2. If we ended at 2 o'clock and not 2:30, I don't know what. Oh my God, Oscar, listen, this is wonderful. I am. I was so caught up that I even get confused in the time and all. I watching the time and I thinking, wait, we have half an hour still.
Right.
No, we have to stop. Oh my
no
God.
callers today.
Yeah, boy.
Oh God, I'm really sorry.
Yeah,
but I must say I really did enjoy.
Yes,
this
I know.
conversation.
Maybe we should continue it.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, fine.
And
yeah.
probably, you know, the people who listening right now could send us messages via Facebook or YouTube, and or call Kamika tomorrow, and you all could have this discussion, and we'll continue it because we need these discussions cannot be one-off, and I think that's the problem. They are one-off discussions.
And the organization Men Can, who commented a few times on the live, you could reach out to us or reach out to God, 756-6337, and let's see if we could bring you on the next installment.
Yeah. Let's have this conversation and continue it so that men out there who are struggling will understand what it like. You know what it's like to be in a relationship that you're not happy with, or you're not happy with yourself, and how you're making the relationship or the marriage unhappy, and you know
or where those spaces exist where you
can
share.
So keep sending the messages. We will collate them, we will collect them, and we will bring them to the table for the next discussion.
Lovely.
So then we have Oscar back with us. Oscar, can we have you back with us?
Oh, sure. Just
Right.
tell me when.
Yes.
As long as I'm in the country.
We'll give you enough time so that you can prepare and we can have this discussion going forward again. I really, Kamika, thank you very much for your, Kamika, thank you for your contribution. For those of you online and everywhere around the world that listen to us, thank you so much for listening to me vent at least and listening to Oscar.
That was good catharsis. That was good catharsis. Thank you.
You all take care. I think we have the all-inclusive family show coming up next. So God bless you all, and we'll be back next Sunday, God's willing, with the Commissioner of Police.
Good afternoon.
Take care.
Lovely.